Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at this amendment, I'm reminded of the debates that we had last year about the legislation that was put forward that apparently either the minority has forgotten about or attempting to suggest to the American people here today that the legislation they put forward, all it did was codify Roe. Well, it didn't just codify Roe. It was much broader than a codification of Roe, and in fact would allow abortion on demand up to the point of birth. And what is happening in the states, we are seeing, in Virginia, we saw a former governor suggest that it would go beyond that what he would support and that what many radical leftists would support would be abortion on demand up to the point of birth and beyond. And so what happened in Virginia was a recognition that there is an extreme on this debate. It is on the side of the left, and rather than standing for life, they are continuing to push for these extremist policies, both at the federal and at the state level. And we will stand in opposition to that. But we will also stand for life in this committee, and I think that in addition to making sure that, as the proposed rules state, that we examine the constitutionality and enforcement of federal and state statutes relating to anti-life measures, which I think is appropriate. We should also look at federalism because, and in the proposed rules it says, the subcommittee will examine the proper balance between the finite powers allocated to the federal government by the Constitution and the powers reserved to the states. This document does not mention abortion anywhere. The Dobbs decision correctly identified that it is covered under the 10th Amendment, that it is reserved to the states, absent any federal legislation to that fact. And so that was a correct decision by the Supreme Court. But I think that it's within the power of this committee to examine that and examine the radical legislation that is arising in Democrat-led states that would allow for abortion up to the point of birth.